The UK has been a leading force for tough action against Russia and in support of Ukraine, but the government's response to the growing refugee crisis has been criticised by some, including some Conservative MPs. Joining me now is Damian Green, former Tory Immigration Minister and effectively Deputy Prime Minister under Theresa May. Damian Green, it is good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Gloria.
You raised concerns, you were one of the MPs who raised concerns on Monday that the government wasn't doing enough to provide refuge for those fleeing Ukraine. Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, went further on Tuesday, but the Labour leader Keir Starmer said the government's plans to relax visa rules for Ukrainians still do not go far enough. Do you agree with him?
Well, it's difficult to answer that question because one of the things that I welcomed, and you're right, on behalf of the One Nation Caucus, more than 40 of us wrote to the Prime Minister saying this isn't enough. We got more on the statement, but what we haven't got are the details yet. The new element, which did seem to me to be a very significant step forward, was the humanitarian sponsorship pathway, which would allow individuals or companies or charities to sponsor refugees. So even those who had no connection with this country did have the chance of coming here. And that seemed to us a very important step forward. Now, the Home Secretary not unreasonably said they haven't got the details of that scheme ready yet. So I'm hoping day by day that we will hear more of the details, hopefully by the end of this week. And only then can you seriously answer the question of whether it's enough or not. I mean, I very much hope it will be. And I think the intention from the government absolutely is there, that Britain will play a full role in solving what will be the most appalling refugee crisis, clearly.
There are differences of views. On your own benches, your colleague, Sir Edward Lee, praised Ms Patel for refusing to drop visa requirements and, quote, throw away the immigration rule book. He said his Lincolnshire constituents had already done our bit in terms of migration from Eastern Europe. There were some people watching who agree with him. What do you say to him and them?
I'd say that this is an unprecedented situation. That we now have the kind of land war in Europe that we all thought had been consigned to the history books, and that with modern warfare techniques and with the utter ruthlessness and barbarity of the way the Russians are behaving, firing missiles into blocks of flats, then inevitably, we already think more than 1 million people are fleeing Ukraine. It could become several million people. So of those, best guess, none of us can know, is that hundreds of thousands of people will come to the UK. So, and I think the overwhelming majority of the British people will have a generous humanitarian response to this. I know from my own constituents here in Kent, in Ashford, they're saying basically, what can we do to help? What's the most efficient way we can help? There's no feeling that these people are a threat. These people are being bombed out of their own homes. We feel sorry for them, and we want to do something practical to help.
Just looking at what the West can do and looking at what the Foreign Secretary has said this morning, we need to make sure that the Russian economy is crippled so it is unable to continue to fund Putin and the war machine. Is that a reasonable statement of intent? Is that something that is achievable? Damian Green. I think we may have lost Damian. Oh, no, he's back. Damian Green, sorry, we lost you momentarily. I don't know if you got the gist of my question. I was putting a line from Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary's speech that she made a short time ago about making sure that the Russian economy is crippled so it is unable to continue to fund Putin and the war machine.
Yes, and that's clearly a sensible aim. It's a radical aim, obviously, but I think therefore one of the things that we need to act on, the biggest lever Putin has, is the oil and gas he sells the West, and so the Germans have already said they are going to announce a significant change to their energy mix, to stop relying that they're obviously the country that has most to lose immediately from this. But we've got to do that. We've got to stop paying for the gas, because that is funding Putin's war machine. So, and I think all the other economic ties, I mean, here in this country, obviously a lot of money has come through the City of London. We've already closed down the SWIFT payment system to the big Russian banks, but there will no doubt be more to be done. And we should accept that this will cause some pain to our own economy. There will be some things that people have made money from over the years that they won't be able to in future. But looking at the sacrifices that people in Ukraine are making, that's a pretty small sacrifice for us to make.
Is it easy for us to say we are well paid after all? Does the government need to do more to make sure that those who are already struggling to pay their bills, gas bills, don't struggle further?
Well, I mean, I think the government has, as you know, taken some measures already to deal with the fuel crisis. There was a fuel price crisis before this happened. This will only make it worse. I think there are things, as I say, the government can do in the short run. In the medium and long term, there's a lot more we can do with our energy mix, including I would hope to start building new nuclear capacity, which is carbon free, so it helps on net zero, but also it doesn't rely on the weather in the way that sun and wind do. So we need an appropriate energy mix to keep our own lights on. But what we need to do is to take a long-term look and determination, not just this week, but for years to come, to say we want to stop relying on Russian gas and oil.
We're just looking, I should tell viewers, at pictures of refugees just over the Ukrainian border. I just wanted to let our viewers know that, Damian Green. I just wanted to ask you about another story that it is being reported today, that the government are seeking to draw up plans, Michael Gove seeking to draw up plans to seize British property owned by Russian oligarchs with links to Vladimir Putin. How practical is that? Surely that would be subject to many legal challenges.
It would be, excuse me, and there are, I mean, some people are saying they're impatient to sort of get on with the measures against the oligarchs, and yeah, I've seen newspaper reports of the government thinking that it is legally quite difficult. I think it may well be that there needs to be new legislation brought before the House of Commons to make sure that the British government is acting legally, because one of the things we're trying to defend in this is the rule of law. So we ourselves always have to act legally. So I suspect there may well need to be new sanctions legislation put through the House of Commons. And all I can say is that we've seen what's happened inside the House of Commons this week. There will be, I think, a huge cross-party appetite to pass any necessary legislation as fast as possible, because we want to get on with this.
And just to ask you about Nadine Dorries, the Culture Secretary's statement. She's been addressing MPs this morning. She's going to be meeting international allies later to discuss what further economic and cultural sanctions could be taken. In terms of the cultural sanctions, what impact is it designed to have? Are they designed to have?
It's designed, and I think it is really important, and we saw this with South Africa during the apartheid era, that sport at the same time is trivial, but at the same time hugely important, and a way of bringing home to the Russian population that the old ways of doing things are no longer allowed, is for their sporting heroes not to be allowed to compete internationally, because very regrettably their leader has made Russia a pariah state. So I think the sporting and cultural boycotts, they're always terrible for the individuals concerned and often unfair for the individuals concerned. But nevertheless, I'm afraid they are a necessary tool in the battle against Putin and Lavrov and the disgusting people who are currently running the Russian state.
And just finally, to return to the issue of refugees, right at the beginning, we're seeing pictures right now. You said that you wanted to look at the detail. of what the Home Secretary had announced on Tuesday. You were hopeful that it would be enough. When do you expect to get the detail? When can we all see that detail to analyse it and check whether it will be enough?
It's a good question, to which the honest answer is I don't know when we're going to get it. I had hoped from what the Home Secretary said that it would be a few days. I mean, if we don't get it before the weekend, if we get it early next week, then that's okay. It's better to get it right than to rush something out before all the details are nailed down. But I know there is an enormous wellspring of generosity out there that people want to help refugees, and so I hope the government can set up a practical system that will allow people to make some practical difference for these poor people who've been bombed out of their homes.
Grateful for your views this morning, Damian Green. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.